I would like to talk for a few minutes today about my favorite subject, which is Louisiana. And I could talk the rest of the day and through the entire weekend about the good things about Louisiana. But today I want to talk about one of our problems. And it's not just a problem for Louisiana. It's also a problem for the United States of America. It's also a problem for the American people. It's also a problem for energy independence for our country. Louisiana is drowning. It's drowning because, Mr. President, we are washing away. Our land is washing into the Gulf. I live about 250, 300 miles north of the Gulf of Mexico, sort of in the toe of the boot, if you think of Louisiana as a boot. If things continue as they are going, I may not be alive then, but the home, my home, whoever lives in it after I'm gone, will be Gulf-front property. And remember, my home's 250 to 300 miles from the coast. Now, why is that happening? Why is our land washing away into the Gulf? A number of reasons. I'll mention two in particular. The sea levels in the Gulf of Mexico are rising. Now, we can have a rigorous debate about the reason for that. And I know many smart people think it's for this reason, and others disagree and think it's for that reason. But we can't deny the fact that sea levels are rising, whatever the cause. In fact, the Gulf, as it meets the southern part of my state, is rising about 12 to 13 inches every 100 years. We have another reason, though, as to why my state is washing away. Our land in southern Louisiana is sinking. Why is that? The Mississippi Delta, of which Louisiana is a part, is an ecological and hydrodynamic masterpiece. What God did in creating our state is just breathtaking. Used to be the Mississippi River, which runs right through my state, would overflow every year. It would deposit its sediment in South Louisiana. The water would recede and go back into the river channel, but the sediment would remain. And after thousands and thousands of years, the land was built up. We have leveed the Mississippi River. I'm not saying we did the wrong thing by leveeing the Mississippi River. We have increased the quality of life for a lot of Americans and enhanced our economy. But when we leveed the river, we prevented it from overflowing. So it no longer deposits sediment. And the sediment that was already there before we leveed the river is slowly sinking. So we have sea levels in the Gulf rising 12 to 13 inches every 100 years. We have the land sinking, and you don't have to be a senior at Caltech to figure out we've got a problem. That's why our land is washing away. Now, why is this important? It's obviously important for the people who live on the land that is washing away. But it's also important for America's energy independence, because underneath the land that is so slowly being washed in the Gulf, crisscrossing that land, extending over into Texas and into Alabama, are 26,000 miles of pipelines that carry oil and natural gas that heat American homes and generate American energy. When that land washes away, those pipelines are going to be exposed. You know what the salt water is going to do to those pipelines? It's going to corrode them. When that land washes away, those pipelines now exposed are going to be exposed to ocean currents. And they're going to burst. Not all at once, but they're going to burst. And this country's energy independence is going to be undermined. Do you know how long and how much money it will take to move those pipelines? I don't know. I'm not sure there are enough digits to quantify it. Now let me shift gears and talk about the solution. I think I've defined the problem. We are helping ourselves. In many cases, I'll give you an example. The Morganza to the Gulf project. That doesn't mean a lot to some of you, but trust me, it's a big deal to the people of Louisiana and to the American people who are familiar with it. We've been taxing ourselves for 20 years to pay for that project, which is part coastal restoration, part hurricane protection. We also got help from the American people, and thank you. Thank you, the American people, for coming to our aid. In 2006, this United States Congress passed what we call it GOMESA. It stands for Gulf of Mexico Energy Security Act. So that's what I mean when I talk about GOMESA. And GOMESA was a pretty straightforward bill. It said that for all new oil and gas drilling in the Gulf of Mexico, the federal government and the state government are going to share the oil royalties. Government, as you know, owns the seabeds, and we lease them to oil companies, and they drill and produce oil and natural gas. In fact, off of Louisiana's coast, we have wells that produce about 17% of the nation's oil and about 3% of the natural gas. And those oil companies pay royalties to the federal government, and they pay royalties. The royalties flow through the federal government to the state government. And under GOMESA, the American people, through their representatives, said, okay, on all new wells drilled after 2006, Louisiana gets 37.5% of the money that the federal government gets. But not just Louisiana. We didn't want to be greedy. We asked to have Texas included. We asked to have Mississippi included. And we asked to have Alabama included. So they get 37.5% too. Fair's fair. And the federal government gets the rest. Louisianians put their money where their mouth was. We dedicated every single penny of that GOMESA money to coastal restoration, to try to build up our land faster than we're losing our land to the Gulf. It's a losing battle, but we're holding our own. To give you an idea of how dramatic it is, since 1930, I think 1932, Louisiana has lost land the size of Delaware. I believe if you run the numbers in terms of square miles, we've lost land the size of 2 Rhode Islands. I think we lose a football field a day. And remember, this doesn't just hurt Louisiana. This hurts America, and it hurts our energy independence. But we put our money where our mouth is. We said, thank you, American people, for passing Go Mesa. We appreciate the 37.5% of the oil royalties that we're going to get out of the federal government share, and we're putting every single penny into coastal restoration. But there's still a basic unfairness, because 20 other states get 50%. Now, these states aren't coastal states. These states, and I'm happy for them, don't misunderstand me, these are inland states that have federal lands. And when oil companies drill on those federal lands and hit oil or hit natural gas, those states don't get 37.5% of what the federal government gets. They get 50%. And that's just not fair. Everybody ought to be treated the same. Louisiana and Alabama and Mississippi and Texas, we're not asking for any extra. We call that Lanny AB in Louisiana. We're not asking for any extra. We're just asking to be treated like everybody else. And in Louisiana, we're dedicating every single penny. I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but we're dedicating every single penny to solving the coastal restoration problem that is not just Louisiana's problem, but also the problem for the United States of America. We have a bill, Mr. President. It's called the Coastal Act. The full name is Conservation of America's Shoreline, Terrain, and Aquatic Life Act. We call it the Coastal Act. And all the Coastal Act would do would be to say, treat all the states the same. Everybody gets 50%, 50-50 split. Louisiana's doesn't get more or less than any other state. Alabama doesn't get more or less than any other state. Mississippi doesn't get more or less than any other state. Texas, same rule. All the states get 50%. It would also make one other change, Mr. President. When Go Mesa was passed, it capped the amount of money that Louisiana and Mississippi and Alabama and Texas can get each year from that 37.5% at $500 million a year. Out of basic fairness, we're asking that the cap be removed. And if we can pass this bill, Mr. President, the Coastal Act, the quarterback on the bill is the senior senator from Louisiana, Senator Bill Cassidy. I'm helping him all I can. So are the senators from Texas and Mississippi and Alabama and other states. And all we're asking is for equality. I don't want to end on a negative note by just talking about our problems. If you haven't visited Louisiana, please come. I've lived in 5 states in a foreign country. I've just never lived in a place like Louisiana. It's my home, and I know I'm biased. God blessed our state, and having blessed us, I think God blessed us a second time. I mean, you look at our location, we're at the top of the Gulf Coast, we're in the middle of the Gulf South, we straddle one of the mightiest rivers in the entire world. We have more oil and gas than most nations do, which we share with the American people. My people are experts in things like agriculture, aquaculture, shipbuilding, petrochemical manufacturing, oil and gas exploration, food, timber, I could keep going, health care. Our people, they're hardworking, they're God-fearing, and they're fun-loving. I tell my friend Senator Cruz and Senator Cornyn all the time how much I love Texas, and I do. Gosh, Texas is a great state. They every day it seems like they win an award. But I tell Senator Cruz and Senator Cornyn, in jest, of course, I said, look, Texas is 5.5 times bigger than Louisiana. But give us credit. We're 10.5 times more interesting than you are. We are just a fun, extraordinary, diverse state. But we need some help, Mr. President. We're not asking for extra. We're just asking for equity. I hope the Senate, in its wisdom, will pass the Coastal Act.